you've strummed a couple chords and you just need a little help. This is all about not only teaching you these basic chords, showing you the practicality how to get back and forth, but also just what to focus on how to get back and forth between these chords, what you should be thinking about, how to maximize your motion, and other things of this nature. So, in order to get started, I figured I'd introduce you to your first three chords if you don't already know them. These are the A chord, the D chord, and the E chord. We're going to cover some other basic stuff today, but before we get going, it'd probably behoove us to kind of get into these right off the bat. So if we're starting with the A chord, first of all, there's 8 basic open chords essentially. We're going to cover all of these in these courses. It's best not to overwhelm. The chords can take a little bit to kind of form at first, so don't get frustrated. You want to, again, they can be kind of slow and frustrating at first, but once you get them up and running, there's literally thousands, hundreds of thousands of songs you can play. So that's all it takes is a couple easy open chords and you're good to go. 3 chords and the truth, So today's 3 chords are A, D, and E. Let's start with A. Although I don't think that's the first one on the list. I can't remember off the top of my head what I put on thing. E, A, D maybe? I don't know. We're starting with A. All right? Okay. So just so you know what you're looking at, it's kind of like you're looking at the guitar like this. Okay? So you have, more specifically that, you'll have 6 vertical strings and 3 fret markers. So we're only really going to deal with the first 3 frets in this course. We might go slightly beyond that, but that's pretty much it. So, if we're dealing with these first 3 frets, we'll also be dealing with fingers. And if you notice there's some writing under those chords, that writing tells you, strategically speaking, in a vacuum, if you're only playing that one chord, that's the best way to make it. However, we will talk about common strings, common fingers, common frets, any sort of common shapes that you might use to get from one chord to the next. Because it doesn't make sense to just do something one way. You want to be consistent because that's going to help you get to it faster every time. But sometimes, if you can utilize something that's already there, you might as well. So we'll get to that in a second. But basically with the A chord, there's a couple different ways to make it. This is the way I'm going to recommend how to make it. Index finger is going to kick it off on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. Middle finger is going to go to the 4th string right above it on the 2nd fret. And ring finger is going to go right below. So they're all tucked into that 2nd fret. It's pretty tight. And if you notice there's an X over the 6th string, that means you're going to avoid that. And then there's an O above the open 5th string and the open 1st string. And I might as well cover that too, just in case. I'm not sure how basic we're starting this. String numbers, PS. There's 6 of them. We're going to count from the bottom up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so that 1st string is open. Again, we're going to the 3rd string first with our index finger, 2nd fret. And then middle finger above it on the 4th string, ring finger below it on the 2nd string. And then we're playing from 5 down. The 5th string is open. The 6th string is not. Technically, that note is part of the chord. A chord is 3 notes in these instances of the kind of chords we're talking about for now, until we get to 7 chords. So that E isn't the end of the world. If you hear it, it's just a little darker. Technically, you want the name of the chord. This is the A string, and this is an A chord. So you want the name of the chord is the lowest note in the chord, normally, unless it says / something else, which we'll also get to in this course. Okay. So, ideally in a perfect world, your pick would accurately hit the 5th string down, and that's it. But we don't live in a perfect world, or at least, whatever. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. 2020 isn't crazy. It's far from perfect. But what I'm saying is if you practice enough, you can get to the point where maybe you will live in the perfect strumming world. I don't know. Anyway. But you can take precautions, and you can kind of mute the 6th string with the side of your thumb here. That way you can strum right through, and it might make a split second kind of a gross sound, but it's so quick in the mix that you're not really going to pick it up. Okay? So I like to call it insurance. Okay? So that's what you want to get on the side there, and then you're strumming down. Now, holding a pick, first of all, pick sizes. We'll cover everything. Might as well. Haven't really planned on it, but I guess it makes sense. Pick sizes come in different thicknesses. You have very thin to very thick that barely move at all. This is a fairly thick pick. Holding the pick, I'm not sure if you can, it's kind of like making an okay sign. And then the thumb kind of, or the pick goes on the side. I'm not sure if you're going to get this. But the thumb kind of matches up on the bottom, like right around the corner. Okay, so you can kind of put that there. And the important thing is put the index finger underneath it. I'm not sure if you can see it. So what you don't want is this. I don't know if you can really see it. You don't want your first finger kind of going out underneath it. It needs to be curled underneath. There's no way you're getting this right now. Anyway, I'm sure there's plenty of closer. I don't know. Maybe you'll get it. Who knows? Bottom line is, you don't want your index finger going out like this because the pick needs to flop over it. So you got to make sure it's tucked underneath so it can kind of go up and down against this. I don't know. Losing battle right now. Okay, so that's the idea though. And a lot of players want to play with a thinner pick because, it moves through the strings very easily. And sometimes that sounds nice. Like a thinner pick playing like Dylan tunes is kind of the sound, You want to hear the flap of that plastic. However, if you hold a thinner pick, you can hold it either lightly, or you can hold it tightly, and it doesn't matter. The pick's still going to move. And therefore, most people end up holding it very tight, and that causes tension, and tension is the opposite of the game at pretty much every level of guitar that you might guitar, because guitar is a verb now. So you want to, I like to recommend medium to heavy picks, just because it teaches you how to hold it properly. You'll probably find that it's pretty comfortable to flop through the strings nice and easily on the way down. But coming up, it might feel like it gets stuck. So if it feels like it's getting stuck, that means you're holding it too strongly. You want to be, basically, as you're coming up through this, the pick, I should have used it like a thicker pick, or a different colored pick so you can really see it. But the pick, I used to play my other guitar. Focus, Dave. Okay, so the pick is coming up through the string, and basically as it breaches the string, you want to push it right to the brink of basically like surface tension with water, where you keep adding a drop, you keep adding a drop, you keep adding a drop, and it's holding, and then all of a sudden the dam just breaks. And that's the kind of motion through the string that you want, okay? And so you're coming up, you're trying to be steady through the arm. It's not to say that you might not have some, lighter wrist motion, or looser wrist motion, I should say, later when playing some like funk chords or whatever. But we're not there yet. So our arm is going to act like a pendulum, okay? And so you really just want it to the pick to kind of just glide through the strings as your arm happens to pull it through the strings. Do you know what I'm saying? Maybe. Hopefully you do. So, but that's the general motion. Okay. Pick, strumming. I thought we were talking about chords. Let's talk about chords. So we got that A chord. We're playing from 5 down. Honestly, we're not going to really worry about up strums this week, except we are, but just not really with strum patterns. Just more of the practicality exercise. It's not going to sound great, but it's going to be very helpful towards this whole thing for you. Okay, we got an A chord. I think we're good on the A. Okay, so again, so when you're making these, what you want to do is kind of make it, play it, make sure each individual string is ringing. Sometimes you'll get one that's like, and so then it's your job to troubleshoot, okay? So what that could be is several factors. One, you might not be applying enough pressure. Hopefully your acoustic or your electric is set up very well so that the strings are close to the neck, and so you don't have to work very hard to hold the string down. They call that action. Hopefully the action is good. But it could also be another thing, like, you might be coming in at a wrong angle, and the side of your ring finger's hitting the open first string, for instance. So you just want to check the angle, you want to check the pressure. Sometimes other fingers can be encroaching in on other strings territory, and you want to avoid that, okay? So, good. You make it, you throw it away. You make it, you play it, you check each individual string, you throw it away. And again, if you're just taking on these chords for the very first time today, you might not be playing all these songs today, and that's fine. But I promise you, if you keep practicing these chords, each one of them, and you can totally, the great thing about these chords and just practicing this kind of basic stuff, especially if you're just trying to get muscle memory and just hold it down, you can totally rock a Netflix marathon and just sit on the couch, and hopefully your dog or cat or significant other doesn't hate you so much for practicing. Parents, children, whoever. But that's the idea, is you just make it, you check it, and you throw it away, and you just keep trying to get it as clean as you possibly can. Okay. Let's say we got the A chord down for argument's sake. It's time to go to the D chord. Okay. So in a vacuum, in a perfect world, that's not a perfect world. In a vacuum, if you're only making a D chord, I tend to recommend first and second finger first. Oh, P.S. Probably already figured it out. But finger numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's going to be a lot of numbers going around. You got string numbers, fret numbers, finger numbers, counting, beats. A lot of numbers happening. All of them are pretty much 1 through 4. So that's not confusing at all, hopefully. But anyway, we're going to start this D chord. I generally recommend 1 and 2 as a pair, and I should mention this too. Sorry, there's a lot to cover on day 1, so forgive me if I'm all over the place. There's generally, all these open chords have 3 fingers. Some of them have 2. You might use 4 when we get to the 7 chords, or some of the easy G next week will be that'll have 4. But bottom line is, most of them have 3, and when there's 3 is an odd number. And generally speaking, there's like a single finger and then a pair of fingers. So for instance, with the A, sometimes it's better for the pair of fingers to go down first and then the single finger, and sometimes it's better for the single finger and then the pair. So for instance, A is one of those ones where the single finger is better to go down first, and then 2 and 3 go around it as a pair. Okay? And you can build it 1 finger at a time, but eventually you want to just think single finger, pair. And that's a good exercise. It's just like, okay, can I hold down my first finger and move 2 and 3 as that pair? Okay. Back to the D chord, that is. First and second finger are going to be the pair. We're going to start off with the pair this time. So I like to say air quotes, or I like to say bunny ears for little kids, but essentially it's like this little claw that comes around. First finger is going to go onto the 3rd string 2nd fret, just like the A. But we are also going to start with your middle finger on the 1st string 2nd fret. So you're skipping over the 2nd string and just kind of surrounding that, okay? That's the claw, the bunny ears, the air quotes, however you want to think of it. And then your ring finger is going to go in between it on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, okay? It kind of looks like a little triangle, and that's how you should think about it. The guitar is very shape-orientated, so half of the ground gain is going to kind of just be seeing patterns. So if you keep your 1st and 2nd finger down and the ring finger there, you're going to play from 4 down. And often it's the 1st string that students have trouble really getting that first time off the bat. So you just want to make sure you're kind of doing that, right? Making sure all that's good. We're going to throw it away. Let's try and make it again. 1 and 2, ring finger in between. Great, throw it away. 1 and 2 as a pair, ring finger in between, 4 down. Okay. The 5th string is actually part of that chord too. It's just like the 5th string relative to the D chord is the same thing as the 6th string relative to the A chord. It's technically part of that chord, but it's not. The name of this chord is a D. The 4th string is a D string. That's the lowest note we want in the chord. Okay. But the 6th string is going to sound like poo if you include it. Okay. So you got to avoid that. Again, hopefully you can shoot for pick accuracy around the 4th string. But you can always mute the side of the 6th string with your thumb. A little tip too, with as far as pick accuracy on the right hand. Let's say you're shooting for 4 down and you're constantly hitting 5. Maybe shoot for 3 down and then you'll constantly hit 4. You know what I'm saying? Just throwing that out there. Okay, so throwing it away. Let's make a D. 1 and 2, ring finger. 1 and 2, ring finger. 1 and 2, ring finger. Let's make an A. First finger on that 3rd string, just like we're making a D chord. 2 and 3 surrounded. should go slower, my bad. D chord. Okay, we got one more chord today. It's going to be the E chord. Okay. With these 3 chords, you could probably play hundreds, if not thousands, of songs, but we're only going to cover a couple today. E chord is going to start off with your first finger, so single finger first before the pair. That's going to go on the 3rd string. So notice we're always kind of starting around the 3rd string for these 3 chords, but this time it's going to go on the 1st fret instead of the 2nd fret. And then 2 and 3 are going to be kind of like tied together, almost like you broke your ring finger and you got to tie it together with the middle finger with tape or whatever. Those are going to go together. So again, it's worth practicing the pair, like moving them around as the pair wherever they may go, and see if you can get it. So the middle finger is going to go on the 5th string 2nd fret, ring finger is going to go on the 4th string 2nd fret. And notice, you can even see it in the diagram I made, notice the middle finger is a little lower than the ring finger. In a perfect world, which I keep mentioning, which definitely does not exist today, you're going up to the 2nd fret. You want to get the finger right up next to the piece of the metal. Never on the metal, because then that sounds like garbage, okay? But when you're playing multiple fingers in one fret, it's just not going to work out, okay? So you have to sort of compromise, and in this case, 2 and 3, your middle finger is kind of shifted a little lower than the ring finger would be. Okay? So that's the E. We get to play all 6 strings with this. Because the ones we aren't touching are going to be open. So you throw it away. First finger on the 3rd string, 1st fret, 2 and 3 over as a pair. Throw it away. Throw it away. First finger on the 3rd string, 1st fret, 2 and 3 over as a pair. Throw it away. First finger on the 3rd string, 3 as a pair, throw it away. Okay, so for those of you who are just getting these for the first time, again, your whole week might be spent just practicing how to make those. Maybe not, hopefully not. These are the 3 of the easier chords in open position. They aren't the easiest. E minor is probably the easiest, definitely. Which is, I might as well teach it to you, even though we're not going to use it today. Here's an E. Take your first finger off, it's E minor. So it's basically the E chord without the first finger. And those are the 2 types of quality. That brings up a great point. Those are the 2 types of qualities that we're generally going to be dealing with, major and minor. Major sounds happy. Minor sounds sad. And you can tell it's just a 1-note difference. Okay? Today it's nothing but sunshine and rainbows. We're going all happy chords, all major chords all day. Okay? So that's the idea. You might spend most of the week just trying to form them. Hopefully you can kind of get going sooner than later. Okay. Now that I've introduced you to these chords, now that I've talked strategy on how to build them and make them and watch Netflix, it's time to start the switching process. So if you notice, I got on the top of the page 1 here, I got 5 different steps to switching. These are just general layers. The concept's basically the same. It's basically just 1 exercise, maybe 2. But it's just a question of how much time you got to get to the next chord. So when practicing switching chords, you need to hold yourself accountable in time. You know, right off the bat, if you just want to practice, you can totally just, honestly, you'll probably end up doing that anyway. So for instance, in introducing this, let's just even just talk how to switch from A to D, because that's what this example is exemplifying. Okay, redundancy. So first finger for the 3rd string, 2nd fret with our index finger. What? First finger is our index finger. I told you we were in the redundancy department. 2 and 3 around it. Okay. Then we're going to go to a D chord. So your first finger is already actually right where it needs to be. It needs to be on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. So you're going to leave it down. Okay. Don't take it off. That's just wasted motion. Okay. Middle finger is going to hop around it. Ring finger is really important to get it out of the way too. Middle finger is going to hop down to the 1st string, and then ring finger is going to tuck in. So again, in a vacuum for the D chord, it's 1 and 2 as a pair, and then 3 in between. Okay. For this, your first finger's already there, so you might as well just move your middle finger and then your ring finger, okay? And so, ideally you would sit down with a track, but just getting acquainted with them first, step one would just be, and I encourage you to go back and watch this first lesson when approaching these other chords, just as a reminder. Step one would simply just be going from the A chord to the D chord. You know, you just want to kind of get it under your fingers. So you can kind of take time. You might take longer than you would need to if you were doing it with a backing track or metronome. So you just want to get it to the point where it's relatively in time, and then you're ready to practice it in time and kind of hold your feet to the fire. Okay, so the idea is this. Well, let's talk reading rhythms really quick. We're going to cover some basic reading rhythm options over the course of this course, of course. But, so I don't know if you can see this. It's probably too whited out. No, I don't trust that. You can barely see it. I'm sure we can throw it up on the screen for you. But I'll just point down here. Let's go down all the way to the bottom of the page to number 2. Dang, that's so bright. Can't see it. These black notes right here, notice there's many stacked, okay? That just means you're playing multiple notes at once. That's a chord, okay? But really, you can kind of ignore most of it and just look at the top note or the bottom note. The black ones are quarter notes. Most music we're listening to and we're dealing with it until, I think it's week 4, we'll deal with 3/4, but most of, especially in this course, we're only dealing with 4/4. So essentially what you're doing is you're just counting to 4 over and over and over again. And every time you tap your foot, every time you hear a click on the metronome, that's a quarter note going by. 1, 2, 3. Down here on number 2, this little squiggly line represents a quarter note, but a rest. So for every type of, however long you can hold a note for, there's another symbol that tells you how long to not play for that same amount, right? So number 2 is essentially 4 quarter notes, but the last quarter note is just quiet. You don't play anything. So you're going to have to stop the strings when we get to that. We'll cover that in a second. But those are quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Then we also have half notes. So if we go up to step 2 up here, that's a half note. It looks like a quarter note, but it's not black. Half notes are worth 2, so you're going 1, 2. You're letting it ring for 2. Okay? Right next to that is a half note rest, so you're not going to rest. So the concept of these first we'll start with these first 3 steps is that you're playing a chord and then you're using the rest of the measure. Measure is 4 beats. You can also call it a bar. So this is bar 1, bar 2, bar 3. You're playing a chord and then you're using the rest of the beats in that measure to get to the next chord. And ideally what you're doing is you're playing the new chord on the next downbeat, another term for 1. So chord, 2, 3, 4, chord, different chord, that is 3, 4, different chord, or the original chord you started from. When you're practicing these, if you have a song that has 3 or 4 chords, don't even worry about those 3 or 4 chords. Just take the first 2 and practice the logistics of that. Excuse me. So, you can put a dot next to the half note and it turns into a dotted half note, go figure. And that's worth 3 beats, okay? So that would last 3, and then there's that quarter note rest, because that's all that's left, because 3 plus 1 equals 4, right? Right. I don't have any whole notes represented today. Oh, I do, just kidding. They're all represented all over the place, actually. Down here, all this week's switches are whole notes. They look like half notes, but they don't have a stem. They're worth 4 beats. That's just more of a placeholder than anything. We'll get to that. But that's the moral of the story, is that we're dealing with 4 beats. So step 1 is to play it on beat 1 and then utilize beats 2, 3, and 4 to get to the next chord. Okay? Step 2 is to play it on 1 but hold it through 2. So you have a little less time to get to the next chord. So you play on 1, 2, and then you have 3 and 4 to get to the next chord. Okay? Step 4 is to hold it for 3 beats and then only have 1 beat to get to that next chord, or less if you're doing even better. You can increase or decrease the challenge of this concept by either going faster or slower with the metronome or the drum beats. I have included 4 various tempo drum beats for both straight as well as swung 8th notes, which we'll get into at another date. But today you'll have a track at 42, at 50, at 58, and 68, just to kind of practice these at varying tempos. Okay. So let's just practice A to D, okay? Sorry, I just gotta pull this up. I'm gonna go to 42 beats per minute. And I'm gonna demo how to do this, okay? So I'll demo what just playing for 1 beat sounds like, and then 2 beats, and then 3 beats. And then what we'll do is we'll just loop it, okay? And I'll probably end up playing the 3 beats on, 1 beat off. But if you need to bail on the chord a little sooner to get to the next chord on the downbeat, that's fine. Do what you gotta do at home. Basically, you're just trying to strive to hold the chord as long as you possibly can. We'll talk about steps 4 and 5 in a second. That's going to involve a little more variance. But here we go. Here's 42 beats per minute. 2, 3, 4. So here's just 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2. Again, you're holding your first finger down. Just playing from 5 down. So this is hopefully allowing you enough time to make sure you got every finger in its right place and you can find your pick and you can move it down, okay? So here's 2 beats. 1, 2, start to switch, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and we're not really worried about muting the notes in between. It's not a traditional rest, it's more of a concept. 2, 3, 4. Yeah. One more on 2 and then I'll show you 3. Okay, so here's 3, so we're holding for 3 beats. 1, 2, 3, switch, and 1, 2, 3, switch, and 2, 3, and switch, and 2, 3, and switch, and okay. 2 more times. Good. Okay. Did I do that 1 time or 2 times? I can't even remember. Thinking about other things in the future, like right now. This is the future. We live in the future. So that's the idea, okay? Step 1 is just understanding the chord. So maybe not even worrying about the E chord yet, just getting the A chord very good. Very, very good. And then getting the D chord very well. D chords go well, A chords go good, okay? Then it's about switching back and forth between them. So doing exactly what we just did, okay? Haven't even entered the E into the mix yet. We will in a second. But let's talk about steps 3 and 4. So, although we're not going to really introduce up strums till next week, as far as strum patterns go and playing along in between the beats on the ands, we'll get there in 8th notes. What we will do is we're going to teach our body to do an up strum on garbage while we switch chords, because what happens is, in order to prepare us to do these more complicated strum patterns, your right hand's gonna have to do something when you're like completely focused on the left hand, and it's a little bit of patting the belly and rubbing the head or vice versa kind of a thing. It takes some time and you have to kind of force it. So what's gonna happen is, if let's say we just want to go from A to D. If you go A to D, chances are what's going to happen is your left hand's going to start to move, and then you're going to want to do the right hand, or you'll do the right hand and then the left hand. No. They have to move simultaneously or you're completely losing the point of this exercise. I can't stress that enough, and I can't tell you how helpful enough this is. Okay? So it's very important that you do this. Okay? So as you start to take, again, first finger is staying down this whole time. As you go to the D chord, I forgot to mention it, you can probably see it in my hand, but as you go to the D chord from the A chord, your first finger might shift slightly up and then at the D, and then slightly shift back. It's staying in that same fret. But that's the idea. So you're going to go down on A, up as 2 and 3 kind of come up. It's going to, I call it garbage because it might be completely open strings. It might be part of a chord. It doesn't matter how bad it sounds. That's almost the point right now. It's not the point, but it'll sound better when you hit the D chord on the next downbeat. Contrast, sure, why not? So you got A, garbage, D, again, first finger stays down, 2 and 3 come up, just round that first finger. Okay, so you can kind of do this at a time, just like how we practice switching in the first place. But eventually, I basically kind of simplified it. Either gave you the half note option or the dotted half and then one beat to get to the next chord. So let's practice. We'll do 8, maybe, 8 of, now we'll do 4 each. We'll do 4 half notes, and then I'll move on to the dotted half notes, so 3 beats, and then on beat 4 on the up strum. But if you need more time, you can still continue to do the half notes. And again, you don't necessarily need to practice with me right now. You can, you should, but as long as you practice along with the drum beat, that should be good. Okay, so going back to the beginning, we're at 42, and again, there are faster drum tracks if you need a greater challenge, but stay 1. Let's take it easy, you know what I'm saying? 3, 4, so 2 beats. 1, 2, 3. 3 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. If you need 2 beats, that's fine. 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 more times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do that correct at the last time, but you get the idea. You probably need some more time with it. That's fine. However, this is a very finite amount of time of a lesson, and we're going to keep moving. Okay, so keep practicing that. You might even find that you just need several days of that. That you're not really gaining too much ground today. You're not gaining too much ground tomorrow, but you know, in a couple of days you wake up and it's kind of there. And you kind of got it, okay? It's kind of this thing. With learning any instrument, I'm sure you've noticed, well, maybe if this is day 1, you haven't noticed at all. But basically, a lot of music feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of a thing, which gets tied up into self-doubt and anxiety. It's a beautiful thing. So it is what it is, you know, small wins. We'll say, keep the eye on the prize. Hang in there, kitty. You know. So let's go from A to E. Right now we're on line 3, which is this week's switches. We technically just did A to D. You might need some more time, but that's it. Now, again, there's the different levels. So I'm just going to warm you up through A to E really quick. But for time's sake, for exercise sake, let's go directly to, as soon as we kind of get up and running, we're going to go directly to the 2 beats and then an upstrum on garbage, 3 beats and upstrum on garbage exercise. So we got A. And then getting to E, basically what you want to do is 2 and 3 off first. So first finger stays down again, but it's on the correct string. It's on the wrong fret. So don't want to take it off. You just want to slide it back and then move in 2 and 3 up as a pair. And then you got that E. Again, going back to A from E, you're going to take 2 and 3 off, slide your first finger forward, surround it with 2 and 3. Okay, take 2 and 3 off, slide your first finger back. You got yourself an E. Take 2 and 3 off, slide it forward. Okay, so that being said, let's play along on the drum backing track again. We're going to do 8 times through. First 4, I'm going to do half notes and then upstrum on garbage on the second half note, get into the next chord. But on times 5 through 8, I'm going to do 3 beats, and then beat 4 will be the upstrum on garbage. If you need more time, that's fine. Do what you got to do. We're just hanging. 2, starting with A, 3, 4, and 2, garbage and slide in. Slide, surround, down. Picking the fingers, slide in. Oh, I forgot the upstrum. You get the idea. 2, garbage. 1, 2, garbage. As your fingers come off, slide back, and 2, fingers off, garbage. Slide back, surround, and garbage. And slide, surround. Garbage. Okay, I'm going to 3 beats now. So I got 1, 2, 3, fingers off, slide back and garbage. 1, 2, 3, fingers off and slide up and it's garbage. 2, 3, and 2, 3. We're going 2 more times. Okay, that'll get the job done. It's 2 transitions. Okay. Now we're about to get to a couple songs, and hopefully we don't run out of time. I want to field some questions if you happen to have any. But we still got one more transition. So now we got to go D to E. So we got that D chord. We're starting with the claw, ring finger in between. 2 and 3 off, just like we did with the A chord. First finger slides back, just like we did with the A chord. And we make an E chord, just like we did with the E chord, right? 2 and 3 off, first finger slides, middle finger goes down. Okay, again, totally fine if you need more time with that, and what we're about to do is not, you're not prepped for it, but it's gonna take some time. Don't worry about it. Have fun, okay? Laugh at yourself. You're gonna suck. That's why you're here, okay? Don't take it serious. It's not world hunger, huh? So 2 times 2, and then 3 and 1 for each. Here we go. 2, starting with the D chord. 3 and 4. And 2, garbage. 4 and 2 and garbage. 4 and 2, garbage. feels like 4. Let's go to 3 each. 1, 2, 3. Garbage and 3 and garbage and 2 more. Cool. Okay, you could keep going if you're at the comfort of your home and you're not trying to follow along with this lesson later. Just try and see if you can do it for the whole drum beat. You know, some of the tracks are like 4 minutes long. That might be the only practice you put in that day, and that's fine. Some of you are weekend warriors and got 9 to 5 and kid and just want to play some tunes. So small wins, as I said before. Anyway, we got a couple songs today. One of them is called Wild Louie. The other one is called Making It Happen. Making It Happen is just a kind of a nonsense chord song that I made. Wild Louie is basically ripping off Wild Thing or Louie, classic 1-4-5 songs. Okay, so let's take a look at Wild Louie. Wild Louis. Okay, if we're gonna start with the A chord and it's 3 strums, 1, 2, 3, and then it's rest. So in order to, this is actually going to be easier because you don't have to do the up strum on garbage, but you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so you're going to have 2 beats to get to the next chord, but you don't actually have to do anything on the right hand. And in fact, if you're playing along with the drum backing or the recording, it's probably going to be so noisy that you're probably not even worried about muting, but try and mute if you can, okay? But basically it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So you're going to play 2, 3 for the D chord. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Then it's going to go to an E chord. So basically what it does from A to E, it's going to go from E to D as well. And you're going to play the same rhythm for D. You're just going to play the same rhythm for E chord, but that you did for the A, but with an E chord. So then it's going to go 1, 2, 3, rest, rest, rest. Okay? So in total it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so I'm going to play along with the recording. Again, you might need more time practicing this. I get it. Honestly, if you do practice your transitions and you keep upping the ante with the speed on the transitions, that might be all you really need to do this week. And that will be enough prep to get you up and running to play these songs pretty quickly. So I would say priority is actually the switching, even though it'll be more fun to play some of these songs. But let's play Louie. We'll do that really quick. I talk a lot, don't I? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Here is Wild Louis. I called it Louie, didn't I? Just kidding, it's not really. So you'll hear 8 clicks up front for this, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, okay? So you get the idea. There's about a minute left on that track, maybe a little longer, but I'll save you just because we got to get to a couple more things. It's pretty straightforward. Again, if you're a Jamplay member, you can totally download these tracks and then slow them down VLC if you need a little less, or a little less tempo. You could also, yeah, man. I mean, just practice with a click at a slower tempo. Again, the most important thing to remember when switching between these chords is that your first finger doesn't need to leave the third string at all. So it's really about the middle finger and ring finger doing some gymnastics, okay? So hopefully you guys can hang with that. Let's go to making it happen. Sorry, we're just pushing through this. I just want to get to any questions you might have before this lesson is finito. Okay, so making it happen is going to be a slightly different strum pattern. It's going to involve the up strum on 4. Okay, so we're going to start off with D, and the first note that we're going to have of each measure for the strum pattern essentially is a 1-bar phrase, and then it's going to go for 2 beats. So it's 1, 2, then we're going to play on 3, and then we're going to go up on garbage. So it's 1, 2, 3, garbage, 1, 2, 3, garbage, 2, 3, garbage, 2, 3, garbage, 2, 3, garbage, D, 2, 3, garbage, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1. So notice on beat or bar number 7, there's no garbage on beat 4 because you're staying on the same chord. So we're only really practicing that when we're trying to get to a new chord. So let's just play through that again one more time, maybe a couple times slower, and then we'll do it with the track, and then I'll field any questions y'all might have. Okay. Well, we're not there yet. So again, we're gonna go to the D chord, to an A chord, to an E chord, to an A chord, to an E chord, to a D chord, to an A chord. This progression, I'm indifferent on. It's all right. I might get a little more creative if I was actually trying to write a song, but essentially I just want to make you do all the changes that you can possibly do with these 3 chords. So that is the purpose of the song, making it happen. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so it's D, 1, 2, 3, garbage to A, 1, 2, 3, garbage to E, 2, 3, garbage to A, back to D, 1, 2, 3, garbage, 2, 3, garbage, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I kind of screwed that out, but you get the idea. 1, 2, 3, garbage, 2, 3, garbage, 2, 3, garbage, 2, 3, garbage, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, garbage, 2. Okay, and this is all sort of last minute. I get it. Even if you wanted to just practice the transitions this week, or just Louie Lou, or just whatever you can do is great. Transitions are the number 1 priority. That's fine. Anything else is gravy. Let's go to make it happen. Okay. Yeah, we're just gonna play through it a bunch of times, and then I'll take some questions. Here we go. Thank you so much for hanging. This is week 1. It's 9 other weeks. We got a whole bunch of stuff we're going to cover every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard. 3, 4. So obviously faster. Okay, so I think if you make it all the way to the end of the track, I'll technically just end it on A, but that's the idea. Hope you enjoyed this lesson. Let's take some questions. If we got them. Do we got them? I was told 10 seconds. I feel like that's accurate. We're live, hearing for some, ready to field some questions. That's what we're here for. Okay, guys. Y'all asked some good questions. Appreciate you hanging out. Let's get right at it. So, first question is, how do I know what thickness a pick is right for me? Excellent question. Well, you want to explore. It's good to get like a little of a variety pack. Again, I don't recommend going too thin. It's not horrible right now, but you know, I wouldn't stay with the thinner picks too long. It's especially when we start to play single note stuff. You want to say at least medium. So sometimes picks say medium, light, hard, whatever. So medium to hard, or heavy, they say, or somewhere in the, I wouldn't go below 0.6 millimeters. The green Dunlops are usually great, 72, but like somewhere like in the 70 to 1 is a good range. Usually 70 to 80 millimeters is about right for someone just getting going. Again, it's okay to have a little flap in it, especially coming back up with up strums, which, you know, we did a little bit today. But again, you don't want to be holding it too hard. Next question. Hopefully that helps. My fingers are hurting really bad. Does that go away? That is the number one question that I forgot to cover today. So, excellent question. That is normal. It does hurt. You can get nylon string guitars. If you're dealing with string. Steel strings, they can be a little abrasive at first, especially if the action, like I said, is kind of difficult. If it's high, it's harder to press down, so you have to work harder. So part of it could just be you need to get your guitar set up properly. But generally speaking, if you're brand new, your fingers are going to hurt. It might take a couple weeks. It's really hard to say. It really depends on how much time you practice. So it sucks because it hurts your fingers, so you don't want to practice too much, but the more you practice, the sooner your fingers are going to get tough, and the sooner that's going to go away. So I would say about 2 to 4 weeks, somewhere in that range. And if you don't practice enough, maybe longer. Great. How long will it be until I'm able to just play a song? Excellent question. Hopefully, I realize, hopefully the tempos weren't a little too fast for you guys today. If you get these chords down, in theory, you should just be able to. It really depends on how much depth of a song you want to play. So these tunes that we're playing today, again, and in the following weeks, are songs, full songs. A lot of songs are just the same progression over and over again. And even though some of these aren't real songs technically, a lot of them are kind of in the vein of songs that are real. So you should be able to, as long as you get these basic chords down and you're able to kind of get the strum patterns and hold them steady. Again, just being able to groove a couple chords with a backing track. Especially if you focus on one song in particular, hopefully, if you put the time in over the course of the week, you'll be able to hang on the song. But again, some people, I've had students that have walked away in the first lesson playing songs. I've had students who have struggled with, especially specific chords, like the C chord next week might be a little difficult. And it takes weeks for them. So just keep at it. Hopefully you should be up and running within weeks at worst case scenario. And again, once you really get good at these chords, it's like nothing, and then a dam breaks, because you're able to switch between these chords, and then there's just hundreds of songs, thousands of songs that are these basic chords with these basic strum patterns we're going to be learning in this course. So stick in there, hang in there, kitty, right? How do I get better at counting to the beat? So it can be difficult, especially if you're worried about what you're doing here. I would recommend just, sitting along with the drum beat, and don't even pick up a guitar, just, count along with it. Okay. And then, as far as the switching goes, just see if you can kind of play whole notes, or, don't really hold yourself to like 2 beats on, 2 beats off, or whatever. Just kind of play a chord, and you want to practice that, how we've talked about it. But as like another exercise that you can do is simply sit down with the backing tracks, so the drum beats, play a chord on 1, 2, and then don't worry about, even just stay on one chord. 2, 3, 4, 1, and just try and play on 1 every single time, and just focus on the counting, tapping the foot. All of that's a little awkward at first. Again, 0 to 10 is much more awkward than 10 to 60. So just like learning the songs, once you get to a certain point, you're able to learn a bunch of songs. Just like tapping your foot. It's a little awkward at first. It takes a minute, but once you get pretty comfortable with it, it's something to implement now, because it's only going to get a little more difficult. So we didn't talk about tapping the foot today, but that's something to kind of get into. I'd recommend it. We'll talk about it more next week, but I think that's good. And finally, my favorite question: what is garbage? Well, garbage is what you don't want anymore, what you throw out. But in terms of this course here, and just how I like to refer to it as switching, essentially, today was beat 4. When we get into eighth notes, it'll be the and of 4, but it's the same concept. It was also beat 3 today, depending on when we switch. Essentially, what all it is nothing in particular. French, we call it n'importe quoi. It's random. It doesn't, it can be all open strings. It could be, a piece of the last chord that you're making, but you're trying to get from chord, I want to say chord A to chord B, but technically like A to D or A to E this week, right? So you might have a piece of the chord, let's say you're going from A to D. You might, again, like I told you, you want to hold that first finger down. So you're going to leave that down, but generally speaking, you could also kind of go up on completely open strings and then down on the next chord. You're just trying to get from the first chord to the second chord, and then whatever happens on that up strum, whether it's a piece of the last chord, a piece of the new chord, just completely open strings, it doesn't matter. It's just, I call it garbage. It's anything goes, right? As long as it's just a moment in time where you're physically forcing yourself to do something as you get to another spot, another chord. So hopefully that works. That I think that does it for questions, unless we got any others at the buzzer. But thank you so much for hanging out, guys. I hope you enjoyed the lesson today. Again, clock those hours. Great, even if you're a busy person, just sitting down with a drum backing track for 4 minutes a day and just really just practicing these chords. There's only 3 this week, so I would definitely recommend memorizing them, so that you're not having to refer. The chords go way smoother if you just know because you got to move several fingers all at once. So memorize the chord so you don't have to look at the middleman and like translate it. Just sit down with a drum backing track and just practice the crap out of them. Basically, that's the moral of the story. That'll do it for me, guys. We'll see you next week. Enjoy.